Fenlon, we meet again. And again. And again.
I grow tired of your visits, cat.
As do I, you slut.
You are a slut.
You're a slut.
You are the slut.
Cat, ready to dance.
I'm always ready.
Fenlongo, I've missed our chats.
Shut up and fight.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It's official. Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn is set for September 12th in Las Vegas. Garcia will defend his WBC welterweight title against Benn on September 12th at the T-Mobile Arena for their 12-round fight that was officially announced on social media earlier today. Garcia versus Benn will be live globally on Paramount Plus and exclusively on DAZN across the UK and Ireland, with Garcia making his first World Championship defense.
This does not appear to be a pay-per-view, which would be a win for us.
It means returning to the same location where he outboxed and outpointed Mario Barrios, winning a wide UD on February 21st. That victory was his first since December of 2023 when he stopped Oscar Duarte in the 8th round of their 140-pound catchweight contest. The Victorville, California native's majority decision win over rival Devin Haney in April of the following year was changed to a no contest because Garcia had tested positive for Osterin, a banned substance.
In what is being dubbed in some circles as a battle of the cheaters. Cheater versus cheater, because Ryan got caught with a banned substance in his system and so did Conor.
Garcia, 27, is the ring's number 5 ranked welterweight. England's Benn will get his first world title opportunity. He last fought at the welterweight limit of 147 in April of 2022.
4 years ago.
When the son of British legend Nigel Benn stopped Chris Van Heerden in the second round. Benn, 29, is coming off a one-sided UD win over the two-time junior welterweight title holder Regis Prograis on April 11 in a 10-round, 150-pound catchweight bout at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, what was on the undercard of Fury versus Makhmudov.
Now he's fighting Ryan, and I anticipate Ryan Garcia is going to win.
Not because Ryan is so good or Ryan is so special, but because Conor Benn hasn't fought at this weight in a very long time, and I don't imagine 4 years out from his last welterweight bout, it's become easier over time to get down there.
They're both flawed fighters, both limited, but the fight being at 147 means different things for different fighters. For Ryan, it's a perfect fit.
Not having to boil down to 135, not having to boil down to 140 at 147, for him, it's a breath of fresh air. For Conor,
it's a crash diet.
It's confirmation of what I told you before the Chris Eubank Jr. fight. Careful that he's not sacrificing too much, moving up the middleweight for Chris Eubank Jr., because afterwards, whether he wins or he loses, he's gonna have to move back down. He doesn't have the dimensions to fight as a middle or a junior middle.
Against junior middles.
Those guys at 154, the good ones, they'd eat him alive. So following a Chris Eubank Jr. fight, Conor wouldn't have much of a choice but to move back down to a weight that he hasn't made in years.
The dildo of retribution seldom arrives lubed.
Conor's day of reckoning is here. He's gonna get what he wants. He's got the Ryan Garcia fight and for the WBC title, but he's not going to win it.
Reacting to the official announcement, Ryan took to his social media and said, "Big thank you to my partners at DAZN for being extremely helpful to make this happen. Also, of course, to he and the whole Ring Magazine team. The way everyone came together to make this huge fight happen is amazing, and boxing needs more of it. Let's go, September 12th.
I feel so inclined to agree. This sort of cross-promotional fight between what is a Zuffa fighter and a Golden Boy Promotions fighter. Oscar De La Hoya made it clear, initially, he didn't want to do this thing.
He didn't want what is his flagship fighter to go over there to Zuffa to be content for somebody else, but in the United States, they are at the helm of the promotion, and the fight will be distributed via Paramount Plus, not DAZN.
That tells you everything you need to know about the situation. The saving grace for Oscar and Golden Boy is I anticipate Ryan is gonna win, after which he'll go back to DAZN. He'll go back to Golden Boy.
See out the duration of his contract.
Though momentarily, this is a Zuffa boxing show, more than it's a Golden Boy show, more than anything, and that's why it's on Paramount Plus. Simultaneously, that's why it doesn't appear to be a pay-per-view.
Which is good news for me and you. Let's not kid ourselves. If this thing were happening on DAZN, we all know what they'd do with it. Put it behind a paywall and make it part of their ultimate tier. Thankfully, that's not the case. Reacting to the official announcement, Shakur Stevenson, who has since migrated over to Zuffa, says, Garcia versus Benn ends fake narratives.
Which ones?
Shakur Stevenson believes the official announcement of Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn is further evidence that boxing's biggest fights are becoming easier to make under Turki El Sheikh's influence. Following confirmation that Garcia will defend his WBC welterweight title against Benn on September 12th in Vegas, Shakur dismissed criticism that elite fighters avoid one another, arguing the sport is entering a different era.
A new one, where there's been a shift in the axis of power and who the major players are. Remember that before, the axis of power was broken down into different parts between PBC, who had their Showtime and Fox deals, Top Rank on ESPN, Matchroom and Golden Boy, who were on DAZN.
And still are.
Those political boundary lines made many fights difficult to deal with, made it difficult for those fights to happen, whereas a lot has changed since then. At the end of the previous era and what is the start of a new one. Garcia versus Benn is happening, so it shuts down y'all fake narratives. Fighters can fight whoever now because of Turki, who's saving the sport of boxing. According to Shakur Stevenson, Turki has played a major role in putting together several high-profile bouts over the last 2 years by working with rival promoters rather than keeping fighters separated by promotional or network affiliations.
But to whose fake narratives is Shakur Stevenson referring to?
The people who tried to say that by him going to Zuffa, he was running from Gervonta Davis or running from Devin Haney when nothing could be further from the truth. Zuffa and Turki El Sheikh jointly are very much invested in making those fights happen. So it's not the way that people say it is, that because he's over there at Zuffa, those fights can't happen. This is a prime example.
Conor Benn fights for Zuffa, and Ryan Garcia fights for Golden Boy, and look, they're fighting. They got it done. The announcement is an example of that approach. The fight brings together Golden Boy and Zuffa after negotiations that at times appeared uncertain, with Oscar De La Hoya publicly expressing frustration before a deal was eventually completed. Shakur has been one of Turki's most vocal supporters since signing with Zuffa.
And what Shakur Stevenson said about fake narratives, it doesn't just apply to him and what was said about him, it also applies to what was said about other fighters, like Jai Opataya, who was one of the first high-profile acquisitions Zuffa Boxing made, that by Jai going over there, now the Benavidez fight can't happen?
Bullshit.
This recent announcement allows us to circle back to that, because that's what I told you before. If and when Garcia versus Benn gets announced, David Benavidez won't have Zuffa to use as an excuse not to fight.
So here we are.
Shakur Stevenson has been one of Turkey's most vocal supporters since signing with Zuffa Boxing earlier this year. He has repeatedly praised the effort to match top fighters against one another and has argued that promotional politics have too often prevented the bouts fans want to see. The Garcia versus Benn fight now joins a growing list of cross-promotional matchups that might have been difficult to make under boxing's traditional business model, giving Shakur another example to support his view that the sport is moving in a different direction.
A paradigm shift. Why should you continue to pay per view for fights like Benavidez versus Mikhailian, for example, if you're getting an even bigger, better fight
At no additional charge.
on Paramount Plus? You're getting Garcia versus Benn on Netflix. You're getting Joshua versus Fury, hopefully.
My old college roommate, Andreas Hall, reacted to the news by saying Garcia versus Benn is the first domino to fall, which demonstrates that Zuffa Boxing will work with other promoters and challenge for world titles outside of the Zuffa Championships. Concerns that Shakur Stevenson would only fight Zuffa boxers can now be put to rest, but not only that.
that maybe we're gonna get a break from all of these box office cover charges, all of these pay-per-views, because the boxing fan only has but so much money throughout the calendar year to spend on boxing. You already have subscription fees to contend with. Should you have to continue to pay extra every single month for every single fight that's worth watching?
It isn't right, and it isn't conducive towards the growth of the sport. That if the goal is to bring boxing back to the mainstream, you have to put it back in the forefront, not behind a paywall. You have to make it accessible to as many people as possible. And this fight is a very good example of that. Even if it requires Zuffa Boxing to be at the helm of the promotion and in control, so what?
Paramount sub costs less than a DAZN sub.
My next-door neighbor in the Lower East Side, Abraham Gonzalez, said the Garcia versus Benn fight will likely see Zuffa Boxing handling the event, especially since it's on Paramount+. White already called Garcia a welterweight world champion, so I do wonder how the World Boxing Council is going to take this. Will they puff their chest like they have in other situations, or keep quiet?
They're gonna keep quiet, Abraham. For the sanctioning fees they stand to make from this fight, whatever dollar amount it took to get Ryan Garcia to box on Paramount Plus, that I anticipate was a lot.
They're gonna keep their trap shut.
They're gonna keep their mouths closed and their wallets open, because for them, that's what it's all about. I don't anticipate any friction, any resistance from the World Boxing Council. So that takes care of distribution. That takes care of whether or not it's going to be a title fight. It will.
Now just focusing on the fight itself, that I think is going to be a very good advertisement for the sport of boxing, because Conor Benn has a very fan-friendly style that's easy to digest in spite of all his limitations, and so does Ryan. I say it all the time.
More than Shakur and Devin.
Sometimes it's the flawed fighters that turn in more exciting performances because they're not perfect and they're not trying to be. So there's more potential for hard, meaningful shots to land. There's more potential for a knockout because of the mistakes that both fighters might make. That sometimes it's those B-level guys that ain't perfect.
They have the best fights.
Get two A-level boxers in the ring and they sort of cancel each other out. As they're so good, they don't give the other the opportunity to capitalize on much.
But two B-level fighters that are flawed, have leaky defense, maybe take too many chances, there's more chance of something exciting happening with them than there is with two A-levels. And that is what we have here with Brian and Conroy.
Turki, El Sheikh, and Zuffa have helped to cover all the bases. It being for a title, which means it's a consequential fight, as well as distribution that ensures a large audience will be able to watch it.
Now all the fighters have to do is go in there and perform. And for all of Ryan and Conor's limitations, I anticipate they're going to. They're going to deliver a fan-friendly fight that's easy to watch, easy to like, and it's going to bring in good numbers.
Very good.
Very good numbers, because they've removed the paywall, which will make for a great advertisement for the sport. Now, you really do have something to look forward to in September that won't require you to dip into your wallet for the umpteenth time.
So would you say that this is a win for Zuffa Boxing? That they're finally making inroads into the sport?
I think it's a win for me and you. And I think it's a win for boxing in a manner of speaking, but making it more specific, is this a win for Zuffa since they're the ones at the helm of the promotion? That is something else.
What allows us to now circle back to a conversation I had in my previous video with Joe Habib, friend to the channel. First, understand that this fight, as big as it is, only came together because Turkey financed it. And we all know that Turki El Sheikh is willing to overpay.
And so the question then becomes, how long is Turkey going to do that on behalf of Zuffa? Because that's the only reason this thing is happening.
Overpaying to bring fighters over to Zuffa, which Eddie Hearn criticized.
Which is what me and Joe Habib had a conversation about. Joe said, you're not wrong in anything you said. The point is, we all know that obviously these crazy signings are all being financed by Sella. If Sella was giving Matchroom the money it has invested in Zuffa, Eddie would be doing the same thing.
That's true. I have to concede that.
The market is and has been inflated for a long time. The Saudis have further inflated it. They have overpaid for every fight they financed. The point is, they are the ones losing money, not the promoters. They are taking the risk. DAZN continues to operate off a loss 10 years after its inception because Len Blavatnik has money to burn. The main issue is with the hypocrisy with Eddie. More so than you, he always criticizes others when he feels they are overpaying, but it's okay when he does it and it suits him. All of the promoters are using other people's money anyway.
That is where I have to push back a little bit because Sella is doing all of this on behalf of Zuffa, and Zuffa was supposed to be the game changer, the deviation from the framework we've been seeing, the framework that doesn't work. Remember that initially Dana White said that they weren't going to be doing much business with the other promotional outfits, they didn't want to have to deal with the sanctioning bodies. Now they're doing a full 180, seemingly relying on fighters that are with other promotional outfits to uplift themselves.
By overpaying.
So you can't come into the boxing space criticizing all the other promoters for the job they've been doing when you're relying on their fighters to sell your brand.
And your only way of drawing those fighters to your brand is by paying them more than the other promoters.
Joe Habib continued, overpaying becomes a problem when we the fans are the ones asked to subsidize it. This is my main issue. I feel DAZN is very gimmicky in their marketing and are using an antiquated model that may work in the UK but not in the US. This is why I'm fully behind Zuffa, because I align more with their strategy in the US. Boots versus Zayas was an excellent fight that was buried behind a paywall. You can't grow the sport in America doing things like that. Abdullah Mason will be the next American star. He will continue to be on TNT, which is the correct strategy.
I agree with all of that, Joe. I absolutely do.
But if you're going to address things Eddie Hearn has to say about Zuffa and what fighters they're signing and what dollar amount they're paying to sign those fighters,
remember how it starts. Remember, it starts with Dana White taking a shot at all of the established promoters, claiming they have no ingenue, no innovation.
Remember that he said their imaginations aren't big enough. So how do you imagine paying a fortune to Johnny Fisher,
Edgar Berlanga, Richardson Hitchens, what are these matchroom castaways, is showing up Eddie Hearn? In what way? You're just signing fighters they didn't want anymore and paying them more than Matchroom would.
Because Turki El Sheikh and Sella are willing to pay through the nose to bring top talent to your platform, that's still talent that somebody else developed. Fighters that somebody else groomed. So you can't seriously criticize the other promoters and the job they've been doing when what they've been doing is what you need.
First thing you did was run out and try to pick up a Matchroom fighter because Eddie Hearn promoted the hell out of that fighter. And his opponent,
Oscar's boy, Ryan.
Maybe it's hypocritical of Eddie Hearn to take a shot at somebody for overpaying, but it's hypocritical of Dana to go after all these fighters that are with all these different promoters.
The ones who you said don't think big enough?
Dana White criticized the job they've been doing, but it can't be that bad if you're relying on their fighters to sell your brand.
It's a two-way street, buddy. The pendulum swings both ways. And all I'm saying, overpaying for Matchroom castaways, while you can do that now, it doesn't make for a soluble business or a good long-term strategy, because we've seen this before.
You can't do this forever.
I keep telling you guys that it's gonna boil down to know-how. Who knows more about identifying talented boxers, vetting them, grooming them, and promoting them? And Dana White, for as good as he is in MMA, he's not better at that in boxing than these guys.
So just enjoy it while it lasts.